And we're back. Welcome to CandleLit, the nightly show where I learn how to read and you learn how to listen. Right now, we're reading Beowulf. I have no idea how this book ends. Celebration at Heorot. Then morning came, and many a warrior gathered, as I've heard, around the gift hall, clan chiefs flocking from far and near down wide-ranging roads, wondering greatly at the monster's footprints. His fatal departure was regretted by no one who witnessed his trail. The ignominious marks of his flight, where he'd skulked away, exhausted in spirit, and beaten in battle, bloodying the path, hauling his doom to the demon's mere. The bloodshot water wallowed and surged. There were loathsome upthrows and overturnings of waves, and gore and wound slurry. With his death upon him, he had dived deep into his marsh den, drowned out his life and his heathen soul. Hell claimed him there. Then away they rode, the old retainers with many a young man following after, a troop on horseback, in high spirits on their bay steeds. Beowulf's doings were praised over and over again. Nowhere, they said, north or south, between the two seas or under the tall sky on the broad earth, was there anyone better to raise a shield or to rule a kingdom. Yet there was no laying of blame on their lord, the noble Hrothgar. He was a good king. At times the warband broke into a gallop, letting their chestnut horses race wherever they found the going good on those well-known tracks. Meanwhile, a thane of the king's household, a carrier of tales, a traditional singer deeply schooled in the lore of the past, linked a new theme to a strict meter. The man started to recite with skill, rehearsing Beowulf's triumphs and feats in well-fashioned lines, entwining his words. He told what he'd heard repeated in songs about Sigmund's exploits, all of those many feats and marvels, the struggles and wanderings of Wales' son, things unknown to anyone except to Fitela, feuds and foul doings confided by uncle to nephew when he felt the urge to speak of them. Always they had been partners in the fight, friends in need. They killed giants, their conquering swords had brought them down. After his death, Sigmund's glory grew and grew because of his courage when he killed the dragon, the guardian of the horde. Under Greystone he had dared to enter all by himself to face the worst without Fitela. But it came to pass that his sword plunged right through those radiant scales and drove into the wall. The dragon died of it. His daring had given him total possession of the treasure hoard, his to dispose of however he liked. He loaded a boat. Wales' son waited her hold with dazzling spoils. The hot dragon melted. Sigmund's name was known everywhere. He was utterly valiant and venturesome, a fence round his fighters, and flourished therefore after King Herimond's prowess declined and his campaigns slowed down. The king was betrayed, ambushed in Jutland, overpowered and done away with. The waves of his grief had beaten him down, made him a burden, a source of anxiety to his own nobles. That expedition was often condemned in those earlier times by experienced men, men who relied on his lordship for redress, who presumed that the part of a prince was to thrive on his father's throne and defend the nation, the Shielding's land where they lived and belonged, its holdings and strongholds. Such was Beowulf in the affection of his friends and of everyone alive. But evil entered into Heorot. They kept racing each other, urging their mounts down the sandy lanes. The light of day broke and kept brightening. Bands of retainers galloped in excitement to the gabled hall to see the marvel. And the king himself, guardian of the ring hoard, goodness in person, walked in majesty from the women's quarters with a numerous train, attended by his queen and her crowd of maidens, across to the mead hall. When Hrothgar arrived at the hall, he spoke, standing on the steps under the steep eaves, gazing toward the roofwork and Grendel's talon. First and foremost, let the Almighty Father be thanked for this sight. I suffered a long harrowing by Grendel, but the heavenly shepherd can work his wonders always and forever and everywhere. Not long since, it seemed, I would never be granted the slightest solace or relief from any of my burdens. The best of houses glittered and reeked and ran with blood. This one worry outweighed all others, a constant distress to counselors entrusted with defending the people's forts from assault by monsters and demons. But now a man, with the Lord's assistance, has accomplished something none of us could manage before now. For all our efforts, whoever she was who brought forth this flower of manhood, if she is still alive, that woman can say that in her labor, the Lord of Ages bestowed a grace on her. So now, Beowulf, I adopt you in my heart as a dear son. Nourish and maintain this new connection, you noblest of men. There'll be nothing you'll want for, no worldly goods that won't be yours. I have often honored smaller achievements, recognized warriors not nearly as worthy, lavished rewards on the less deserving, but you have made yourself immortal by your glorious action. May the God of Ages continue to keep and requite you well. Beowulf, son of Ecgtheow, spoke. We have gone through with a glorious endeavor and been much favored in this fight we dared against the unknown. Nevertheless, if you could have seen the monster himself where he lay beaten, I would have been better pleased. My plan was to pounce on him, pin him down in a tight grip and grapple him to death, have him panting for life, powerless and locked in my bare hands, his body in thrall. But I couldn't stop him from slipping my hold. The Lord allowed it, my lock on him wasn't strong enough. He struggled fiercely and broke and ran, yet he bought his freedom at a high price. For he left his hand and arm and shoulder to show he had been here, a cold comfort for having come among us. And now he won't be long for this world. He has done his worst, but the wound will end him. He is hasped and hooped and hurpling with pain, limping and looped in it. Like a man outlawed for wickedness, he must await the mighty judgment of God in majesty. There was less tampering and big talk then from Unferth the boaster, less of his blather as the hall thanes eyed the awful proof of the hero's prowess, the splayed hand up under the eaves. Every nail, claw scale and spur, every spike and welt on the hand of that heathen brute was like barbed steel. Everybody said there was no honed iron hard enough to pierce him through, no time-proofed blade that could cut his brutal, blood-caked claw. Then the order was given for all present to help refurbish Heorot immediately. Men and women thronging the wine hall, getting it ready. Gold thread shone in the wall hangings, woven scenes that attracted and held the eye's attention. But iron-braced as the inside of it had been, that bright room lay in ruins now. The very doors had been dragged from their hinges. Only the roof remained unscathed by the time the guilt-fouled fiend turned tail in despair of his life. But death is not easily escaped from by anyone. All of us with souls, earth-dwellers and children of men, must make our way to a destination already ordained, where the body, after the banqueting, sleeps on its deathbed. Then the due time arrived for Halfdane's son to proceed to the hall. The king himself would sit down to feast. No group ever gathered in greater numbers or better order around their ring-giver. The benches filled with famous men who fell to with relish. Round upon round of mead was passed. Those powerful kinsmen, Hrothgar and Hrothwulf, were in high spirits in the raftered hall. Inside Heorot, there was nothing but friendship. The shielding nation was not yet familiar with feud and betrayal. Then, Halfdane's son presented Beowulf with a gold standard as a victory gift, an embroidered banner, also breastmail and a helmet, and a sword carried high that was both precious object and a token of honor. So Beowulf drank his drink at ease. It was hardly a shame to be showered with such gifts in front of the hall troops. There haven't been many moments, I am sure, when men exchanged 4 such treasures at so friendly a sitting. An embossed ridge, a band lapped with wire arched over the helmet, head protection to keep the keen ground cutting edge from damaging it when danger threatened and the man was battling behind his shield. Next, the king ordered 8 horses with gold bridles to be brought through the yard into the hall. The harness of one included a saddle of sumptuous design, the battle seat where the son of Halfdane rode when he wished to join the sword play, wherever the killing and carnage were the worst. He would be to the fore, fighting hard. Then the Danish prince, descendant of Ing, handed over both the arms and the horses, urging Beowulf to use them well. And so their leader, the lord and guard of coffer and strong room, with customary grace bestowed upon Beowulf both sets of gifts. A fair witness can see how well each one behaved. The chieftain went on to reward the others. Each man on the bench who had sailed with Beowulf had risked the voyage, received a bounty. Some treasured possession. and compensation, a price in gold, was settled for the gate Grendel had cruelly killed earlier, as he would have killed more had not mindful God and one man's daring prevented that doom. Past and present, God's will prevails. Hence, understanding is always best, and a prudent mind. Whoever remains for long here in this earthly life will enjoy and endure more than enough. They sang then and played to please the hero, words and music for their warrior prince, harp tunes and tales of adventure. There were high times on the hall benches, and the king's poet performed his part with the saga of Finn and his sons, unfolding the tale of the fierce attack in Friesland, where Hnef, king of the Danes, met death. Hildebert had little cause to credit the Jutes, son and brother, she lost them both on the battlefield. She, bereft and blameless, they, foredoomed, cut down and spear gored. She, the woman in shock, waylaid by grief, Hawk's daughter. How could she not lament her fate when morning came and the light broke on her murdered dears? And so farewell, delight on earth, war carried away Finn's troop of thanes, all but a few. How then could Finn hold the line, or fight on to the end? With Hengist, how save the rump of his force from that enemy chief? So a truce was offered, as follows. First, separate quarters to be cleared for the Danes, hall and throne to be shared with the Frisians. Then, second, every day at the dole-out of gifts, Finn, son of Folkwald, should honor the Danes, bestow with an even hand to Hengist and Hengist's men the wrought gold rings, bounty to match the measure he gave his own Frisians to keep morale in the beer hall high. Both sides then sealed their agreement. With oaths to Hengist, Finn swore openly, solemnly, that the battle survivors would be guaranteed honor and status. No infringement by word or deed, no provocation would be permitted. Their own ring-giver, after all, was dead and gone. They were leaderless, enforced allegiance to his murderer. So, if any Frisian stirred up bad blood, with insinuations or taunts about this, the blade of the sword would arbitrate it. A funeral pyre was then prepared, effulgent gold brought out from the hoard. The price and prints of the shieldings lay, awaiting the flame. Everywhere there were blood-pastured coats of mail. The pyre was heaped with boar-shaped helmets forged in gold, and the gashed corpses of well-born Danes. Many had fallen. Then Hildebert ordered her own son's body be burnt with knives, the flesh on his bones to sputter and blaze beside his uncle's. The woman wailed and sang keens, the warrior went up. Carcass flame swirled and fumed. They stood round the burial mound and howled as heads melted, crusted gashes, spattered and ran, bloody matter. The glutton element flamed and consumed the dead of both sides. Their great days were gone. Warriors scattered to homes and forts all over Friesland. fewer now, feeling loss of friends. Hengist stayed, lived out that whole resentful, blood-sullen winter with Finn, homesick and helpless. No ring-whirled prow could up then and away on the sea. Wind and water raged with storms, wave and shingle were shackled in ice until another year appeared in the yard, as it does to this day. The seasons constant, the wonder of light coming over us. Then winter was gone, earth's lap grew lovely. Longing woke in the cooped-up exile for a voyage home, but more for vengeance, some way of bringing things to a head. His sword arm hankered to greet the Jutes, so he did not balk once Hunlafing placed on his lap Dazzle the Duel, the best sword of all, whose edges Jutes knew only too well. Thus blood was spilled, the gallant Finn slain in his home, after Guthlaf and Oslaf, back from their voyage, made old accusation. The brutal ambush, the fate they had suffered, all blamed on Finn. The wildness in them had to brim over. The hall ran red with blood of enemies. Finn was cut down, the queen brought away, and everything the shieldings could find inside Finn's walls, the Frisian king's gold collars and gemstones, swept off to the ship. Over sea lanes then, back to Danaland, the warrior troop bore that lady home. The poem was over. The poet had performed. A pleasant murmur started on the benches. Stewards did the rounds with wine in splendid jugs, and Wealhtheow came to sit in her gold crown between two good men, uncle and nephew, each one of whom still trusted the other. And the forthright Unferth, admired by all for his mind and courage, although under a cloud for killing his brothers, reclined near the king. The queen spoke. "Enjoy this drink, my most generous lord. Raise up your goblet, entertain the gates, duly and gently discourse with them, be open-handed, happy and fond. Relish their company, but recollect as well all of the boons that have been bestowed on you. The bright court of Heorot has been cleansed, and now the word is that you want to adopt this warrior as a son. So, while you may, bask in your fortune, and then bequeath kingdom and nation to your kith and kin before your decease. I am certain of Hrothulf. He is noble, and will use the young ones well. He will not let you down. Should you die before him, he will treat our children truly and fairly. He will honor, I am sure, our two sons, repay them in kind, when he recollects all the good things we gave him once, the favor and respect he found in his childhood." She turned then to the bench where her boys sat. Hrethric and Hrothmund, with other nobles' sons, all the youth together, and that good man, Beowulf the Gate, sat between the brothers. The cup was carried to him, kind words spoken in welcome, and a wealth of wrought gold graciously bestowed, 2 arm bangles, a mail shirt and rings, and the most resplendent torque of gold I ever heard tell of anywhere on earth or under heaven. There was no hoard like it since Hama, snatched the brozing's neck chain and bore it away with its gems and settings to his shining fort, away from Eormenric's wiles and hatred, and thereby ensured his eternal reward. Heorot the Gate, grandson of Swerting, had worn this neck ring on his last raid. At bay under the banner, he defended the booty, treasure he had won. Fate swept him away because of his proud need to provoke a feud with the Frisians. He fell beneath his shield, in the same gem-crusted, kingly gear he had worn when he crossed the frothing wave vat. So the dead king fell into Frankish hands. They took his breast mail, also his neck torque, and punier warriors plundered the slain. When the carnage ended, gate corpses covered the field. Applause filled the hall. Then Wealhtheow pronounced in the presence of the company, "Take delight in this torque, dear Beowulf. Wear it for luck, and wear also this mail from our people's armory. May you prosper in them. Be acclaimed for strength, for kindly guidance to these two boys, and your bounty will be sure. You have won renown. You are known to all men far and near, now and forever. Your sway is wide as the wind's home, as the sea around cliffs. And so, my prince, I wish you a lifetime luck. I wish you a lifetime's luck, and blessings to enjoy this treasure. Treat my sons with tender care. Be strong and kind. Here each comrade is true to the other, loyal to the Lord, loving in spirit. The thanes have one purpose. The people are ready. Having drunk and pledged, the ranks do as I bid." She moved then to her place. Men were drinking wine at that rare feast. How could they know fate, the grim shape of things to come, the threat looming over many thanes as night approached and King Hrothgar prepared to retire to his quarters? Retainers in great numbers were posted on guard, as so often in the past. Benches were pushed back, bedding gear and bolsters spread across the floor, and one man lay down to his rest, already marked for death. At their heads they placed their polished timber battle shields, and on the bench over them each man's kit was kept to hand, a towering war helmet, webbed mail shirt, and great shafted spear. It was their habit always and forever, and everywhere, to be ready for action, at home or in the camp, in whatever case and at whatever time the need arose to rally round their lord. They were a right people.